Hare Krishna. Namaste. Chapter 3, which is entitled as Karma Yoga. Sloka 41. Tasmāt tvam indriyāṇy ādau niyamya bharatarṣabha pāpmānaṁ prajahi enaṁ jñāna-vijñāna-nāśanam. So this is the second part of the same sloka, a continuation. The beauty of doing karma yoga is one can see the result immediately. Whereas with jnana yoga, the results are not experienced immediately. So in karma yoga, if one is doing some activity like doing some fasting, for example, an ekadashi, one can feel a satisfaction of the activity, which will encourage the person to continue and do more of such things. This is just an example. Of course, there are people who before fasting on an ekadashi, store as much as they could in their body, stomach, the previous day. Like how people now in general are emptying the shop and loading their homes with groceries, leaving nothing for others. Like that. Sometimes if someone's birthday falls on Ekadashi, they feel miserable. Instead of feeling it's an auspicious day, they feel it's an inauspicious day because they can't eat varieties. Anyways, the good part is during the good thought, this person has taken up to do good things. Of course, the karma will try to influence to destroy the good thing and work towards the bad thing. But since one has started the good thing, eventually that get regulated and stabilized over the period, and that becomes one practice and nature. And this person now sees the benefit of doing such good activities, and he realizes who has been only seeing the pleasure and benefits of sensual activities now will get convinced of doing karma yoga. When the karma comes to influence the buddhi this time, the buddhi will not listen to the karma, because the buddhi has seen the greater benefit of spiritual practices, karma yoga, in Krishna consciousness. When this competition happens between the buddhi and karma, it's not going to stop. The karma is going to continue doing its job against the buddhi. So even though this person has taken up karma yoga and trying to do good activities and practices as per the Shastra, now karma is not going to stop still. It's trying to influence again, continuing to do its best to destroy the good buddhi into bad. But at that point of time, the Lord comes to our rescue to help us. All this while, the Lord did not come to help us. But when He sees that we are putting some effort to overcome the karma and engage ourselves into the teachings and recommendation given by Krishna in karma yoga, that's because He wants to see, as He sees that we are showing some interest and respecting His instruction, now He is happy to come and help us. He just wants to see if we are taking some steps and showing some interest in His teachings. Remember at this, we have to remember this at this time, that the previous one of the sloka, the 31st sloka that we saw before, in it says, Shraddhavanto anusuyanto. Shraddhavanto anusuyanto. Ye me matam idam nityam anutistanti manavaha Shraddhavanto anusuyanto mochantyeti api karmabihi. In the sloka, we saw that even a person, those who cannot follow, but Shraddha, he has faith, in Krishna's word and feels guilty that they are not able to follow, they will get the same benefit, that is free from bondage of action. Asuya, envious person. The person anasuya, the person who is not envious, even that person will get benefit. Is not envious meaning do not disrespect Krishna's teaching. Doesn't say anything wrong about Krishna's teaching and instructions. Do not criticize as people are following those instructions. Even those people will be free of bondage and action. So at this point we have to remember this sloka in connection to what we are seeing today. There in the sloka, Krishna has mentioned even a person who has shraddhavan, anusuyantu, a person who is faithful and who is free of envious nature, they can be free. So what Krishna is looking here in us is to see if we have taken even a small step or having willingness to start and follow the instruction. That's all Krishna is looking for. When he sees there's some interest in us, then Krishna will help us. He says he will help, he will give all protection, what is needed for one to continue the practices. In this way, one can conquer the greatest enemy called karma. So all we have to do is at starting, if we put some effort following the instruction of Krishna, now Krishna will jump right into it to take over and help us. Now one might ask a question, well, since the situation is constantly fluctuating, even if I take up karma yoga, spiritual practices, when my thoughts are good for that 1 minute, obviously the next minute again my thought is going to be bad. So how is this going to help? So the answer is, during the time when we get little good thought in the buddhi and get engaged in the karma yoga, we get some liking and interest in that. And then we don't feel asuya, we don't feel envious of the instructions of Krishna. Rather starts feeling this process is good, which is given by Krishna. So let me follow his instruction faithfully, religiously. When we get to that point, anusuya, non-envious, and his instruction, as it is said, now it is Krishna's responsibility to take and help us at this point and this very stage. The faith into practices and to the point of giving the result of that practice, Krishna takes responsibility. That's not we need to worry about. He will take responsibility. Therefore, all these are possible only through following karma yoga, not by doing jnana yoga, as we can't see the good result of engaging the senses in jnana yoga. Now, jñāna-vijñāna. Jnana refers to fundamental knowledge of the self. That is, the jnana refers to the knowledge of the self as distinguished from non-self, which is the body. In other words, the knowledge that the spirit soul is not the body. That is called jnana. Vijñāna refers to the specific knowledge of the spirit soul's constitutional position, his original position, and his relationship with Paramatma, the super soul. It is said the jnana, the fundamental knowledge, are three: pratyaktvam, ekatvam, anukulatvam, meaning this knowledge is always present in the Atma, that is, never thinks himself to be someone else. No one ever thinks to themselves to be someone else. Never thinks himself to be many. He knows he is only one person. he doesn't think himself to be many, and does only those things which gives benefits and good for him. These are the knowledge of the self. Whereas the vijñāna is the details of that fundamental knowledge, that is, Atma is eternal, full of knowledge, bliss, etc. For example, to understand this difference between jnana and vijñāna, say an object. This object is called as clock. How do we know this is clock? Because the property of that clock is to show time. Therefore, we call this as clock. And that is called jnana. Jnana is what? Seeing an object on the wall, we say this is clock. Why you call this as clock? Because it shows time. So therefore, that's called jnana. Whereas, now the clock has 3 hands. Hour hand, minute hand, seconds hand. It has numbers from 1 to 12 marked inside. It is covered by a transparent glass. The covering behind on the sides is red in color, etc. These are all the detailed that is called vijñāna. Detailed of the jnana to support the jnana. This is called vijñāna. Likewise, understand soul as spirit is jnana. Whereas the soul, the Atma, is part and parcel of Krishna. It never gets affected by anything else. It cannot be cut into pieces, cannot be burnt, cannot be withered. All these are called details. This is called vijñāna. The karma, what it does is, it is so powerful. It covers both jnana and vijñāna. To summarize what we have seen, Krishna's asking Arjuna, you are involved in the working of senses because of your relationship with the material world, that is Prakriti. If you take up Jnana Yoga, which is to withdraw the senses, sense faculties from the material entities, the enemy called karma will drive the sense organs into the sense enjoyment. And in this way, it dilutes and one's determination for the self-realization is lost. Therefore, Arjuna, direct your senses towards karma yoga, which is to perform activities you have done, and it's easy, and there's no possibility of slipping down. In this manner, you can kill the great enemy called karma, which otherwise will destroy your jnana. Tasmāt tvam indriyāṇi ādau niyamya bharatarṣabha pāpmānaṁ prajahi enaṁ jñāna-vijñāna-nāśanam. Namaste. Hare Krishna.